Well, I guess I should have paused that before I even started. But, one of the things that really damages people, one of the ways in which people can be really damaged by abuse is the lack of understanding of boundaries that it causes. I mean, I think back to my pre-recovery days, and I have to say that I sometimes feel great shame still over the way that I behaved, and a sort of a deep sadness as well that can make me feel, well, it would be nice to explain to these people that I just didn't understand. I had absolutely no boundaries. I didn't understand what boundaries were. There were no boundaries when I was a boy, either emotionally or physically. I'm not talking about, of course I knew that you didn't swear and you had to behave at school and that sort of thing. I'm not talking about those sort of boundaries. I'm talking about, the one thing that sexual abuse does and physical abuse does is that your body has no boundaries. And I didn't understand that at all. I didn't know how to say no when I got older, and so I had all sorts of experiences with people that I didn't want, and I also didn't know how to relate to people except on a sexual level, particularly with men, whether they were straight or gay. It was the only way I knew how to sort of relate to them, and it's that bothers me the most. There's a couple of very nice straight men that I put in very awkward situation because of my lack of understanding, and it wasn't even that I fancied them. It was just what I did. I need to make it clear, I'm not talking about forcing myself on people. I never ever did that. But making yourself available and making it plain that you are. Not even I understand it. Well, I do understand. I mean, I wouldn't dream of doing such things now. And when I think also of the danger I put myself in because I didn't know how to say no, and the strange places I'd wake up in with the strange people, and how lucky I was. But then there's not just that, there's the so-called friendships I had with people who basically used me, or were not healthy for me. But, when one believes that everything is your fault, you never see this in other people. One of the most difficult things to deal with, actually, when I recovered, was the realization that other people are not necessarily coming from a place of good, with your best interests at heart. And in many ways life was much easier when I believed that everything was my fault. because that sort of makes you think that you've got made me think I had some sort of control. You know, if only I could get it right, then I would be happy and other people would behave in the way that I guess I wanted them to behave, which was in a good way. That isn't the case. I don't have that sort of power. People behave the way they behave because of the way they behave. It's got nothing to do with me. You know, and I realise that the way I am is the way I am, and the way I react is the way I react. And only I can change that, and I have. I've had a lot of success in doing that, because, well, you know, it shows in my life. I have a good and happy, content life. But I have times like now. I mean, I've been on a low this week because I've physically not been well, and then listening to Carly Simon music all day long, because I realise that to me that's a comfort, that's a thing I retreat into, like ice cream or a blanket for some people, or curling up in bed. And with that, of course, brings its own memories. This always happens when I'm physically not well, I've realised. And the past then weighs heavily upon me. But it is the past, it's not who I am today. You know, and I was able to undo and become myself, which is a huge, huge feat in itself. I think it's the greatest challenge that any human being has, is to be oneself. Once, we've had our basic needs met, for food and shelter and water, and there are people who don't have those needs met. And, by comparison, our life is very easy. And we need to have a balance between understanding that life could be very much worse than it is, and yet at the same time not ignoring our own stuff and dealing with it, because it's all part and parcel of this world of ours, for whatever purpose it might be, or for whatever non-purpose it might be. There are people who believe that this doesn't have any purpose, and I can see why. Although it does make me wonder that, why do they bother then? Why live? Why change? Why does it matter? But I'm not getting into that particular subject. Not today. So, well, I feel a bit better than when I started this video, actually. Realising that I can't undo the past, and the Colin that used to be is not the Colin I am today. And that somehow or other, the understanding of that will come to others, or it will just not mean anything. But being able to make amends, really, just saying, I'm sorry, I know my behaviour was completely out of order, and I didn't understand that at the time. And I was very confused as to the way you reacted too. But I understand today. Anyway, I think that'll be it.